Hey everyone, today we're talking about porn addiction. So it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. Kind of an awkward topic, so I kind of dreaded to talk about this topic publicly, but it's extremely crucial to acknowledge because we are in a crisis right now. We are totally in a crisis with it. So I recently spoke, for instance, with like my parents, and a lot of the older generation, they're not really too familiar with it. They don't even understand how bad and how common it is. And I spoke with my friends about it, and we can all see that it's destructive and it's all over the place. So I don't think people truly understand how prevalent this is and also how destructive frequent porn usage is. So this porn addiction, it's running rampant in young men around the world, especially these young adult men, right? So I finally just finished reading this book called Your Brain on Porn by Gary Wilson, and wow, it was insane. Such a good book. And so honestly, the truth about internet porn, excessive masturbation, things like that, it's really terrifying. We have extremely alarming rates of addiction, which is leading to the adaptation to even more instantly gratifying habits. You know, we're going to talk about that later, like video games, junk food, you know, stuff like that. So those porn addicts, they're more likely to become addicted to those super stimulating, you know, technology and things out there, like the video games, TikTok, social media. And this proclivity toward these more instantly gratifying habits is dangerous because you can link this to more drug consumption, not even necessarily drug consumption, but also depression too. And so I don't think people are paying enough attention to how dangerous this is in the long term, because for one thing, it's an awkward conversation. And then also there's huge profits being made by the content creators. And so it's one of those things, it's part of the matrix as well. Okay? So if you don't know, you haven't seen my channel before, I'm a personal trainer, and I actually focus on helping those break addictions. So for instance, alcohol and nicotine. So I feel it's very necessary for me to discuss this role that porn addiction plays on, you know, its victims physically and mentally. And I kind of look at porn actually as almost like a gateway drug, because it leads into a lot more instantly gratifying, destructive habits that just spiral your life out of control. So in my case, I'll say I definitely personally consumed a lot of it from ages like 13 to 20. But you know, man, luckily when I got the first year in the military, I found that website, yourbrainonporn.com, which Gary Wilson, the guy that wrote the book, I found that, and I found on Reddit, which is a huge internet community, I found this subreddit called Nofap, and I started reading about that, and I was like, wow, everything the guys were saying on that forum, discussing pornography problems and problems with sex and confidence, all that type of work, I could totally see it was very valid points, and I knew I needed to make a change. So I did, and thank God, because I feel absolutely amazing now, not spending my energy and time looking at porn or anything. And so what happens to your brain with overconsumption and how it affects your success in your career with women, and most importantly, your mental health is crazy. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So I'm thankful for having those communities show me this at a younger age. So those behaviors with porn and stuff, it's very debilitating. So since then, it's like, boom, it's just a lot easier to have success. I feel stronger, smarter, healthier, everything, way better relationships. So let's get on to the next part. We're going to talk about the context of this story, the destruction, and then what mindsets we need to adopt to detach from these addictive behaviors with. So let's build some context here now. So early exposures we're going to talk about first. So we are programming these destructive habits in the youth. And if you're not aware, most boys like 9 to 15 years old, that's the first time they're exposed to porn. And so it's a very young age, and you're going through a lot at that point in your life. You're full of hormones, and especially testosterone and stuff like that. So your sex drive is insane anyway, between 9 and, especially between like 12 to 15 years old. So now these kids today, they have like access to a limitless library of the most attention-grabbing sexual content published ever, every single day on their phones. And you know, we see kids all the time, they're using iPhones and iPads 24/7, so you know they're checking it out. They're not hiding from it. And if you look at TikTok and stuff like that, there's a lot of triggers, and a lot of girls that are running OnlyFans accounts and stuff like that, they're on TikTok. So these kids, they're definitely getting exposed to it even earlier now. And so it's dangerous because it leads to difficulties navigating gratifying habits in general. Like, everything is so instantly gratifying today with social media, and especially with porn. Like, it's a huge dopamine response. So it's a lot easier to become addicted to things like video games and junk food now. And it's a lot more difficult to adopt healthy habits like waking up early, reading books, lifting weights, meditating. Like, those things take time. It's delayed gratification, right? And so this early exposure paints an incorrect expectation of what a healthy sexual relationship even looks like anyway. I mean, whatever's happening in those videos is not even close to usually what happens in an actual bedroom. So it's an illusion, and it keeps you distracted and addicted. And this is all about maximizing profits because it's controlling your attention. And so these content creators, they're taking advantage of you. Okay, so let's talk about alarming rates of addiction. So a lot of times when you look at statistics about addiction, they're pretty low, but I think they're totally wrong. It's because a lot of people don't want to admit it. But I did find one study that said for young adult men, 65% of them watch porn every week, which clearly means they're addicted. Like, if you're doing it every single week, you have an issue with it. I mean, let's be honest, you're probably not just ceremoniously one time a week, I'm going to look at it on Saturday at 8 o'clock and that's it. No, these kids, they're spending a lot of time looking at it because it's so, it's so attention grabbing, okay? And so I would say if I had to calculate for young adult men, I'm 25 years old, so let's say for guys, let's say people 15 years old to 30 years old for guys, it's got to be almost 90%. It's got to be higher than 65 because everybody you talk to, they know about it, and when you talk privately about them, they're going to tell you they have a lot of experience with it. So the addiction rates are a lot higher than everybody thinks. And so here's the catch. This is why it's going to be so hard to shake this now as a society, and because of the societal acceptance in general and the profits, okay? So we're hiding from the truth. We love money. It's everywhere. This porn stuff is all over the place. So if you check Snapchat, in which a lot of young kids have Snapchat, Instagram especially, and TikTok, these OnlyFans girls, a lot of these porn stars are becoming internet royalty, and you can't get away from it. I'm on my Snapchat and I go to the explore page, it's all OnlyFans girls, and I'll hide this content from me. I select it, hide this content from me, hide this content from me, and it comes back. I'm not even looking for it. It's in my face all the time. So imagine if you're 16 years old and you're looking for it, it's all over your feed, especially with things like TikTok that really know the consumer data so well. They're sending you the hottest girls all the time that probably have links to OnlyFans pages, or they probably have done porn or something. So you can't get away from this culture if you're on social media right now. And guess what? It's because the bottom line, porn costs basically zero capital to create content for, and the return on investment is absolutely insane. Did you know that some of the earners on OnlyFans, they're estimated to be earning upwards of $20 million per month? Not per year, per month. That's the top earners. So, and there's thousands of girls doing it. Those are just the top earners, And so this is a huge reason why the culture is accepting and promoting it, because it's just hey, there's a lot of money flowing. What's the big deal? But people aren't looking deeper into it, and that's what we have to do now, and that's what this video is about. So imagine that, though, a business that costs literally nothing to pay up front for, besides basically your soul and your self-esteem, and you could make $20 million a month. So that's why people love it, and that's why people won't get away from it. It's dangerous combo. And so I'm not here to blame those OnlyFans stars, whatever. They're probably great people, and they're hustling, they're trying to make a living, they're making money. So I'm just here to explain what's happening when you're pairing this really addictive behavior with an insanely instantly gratifying habit over and over again. It's destructive for a lot of people, And so I think if this industry wasn't so lucrative, we'd probably have a better, honest conversation about this. But for now, we can't really get that deep into it, and we're going to talk about later about how to bulletproof your self-regulation and well-being in the meantime. One other thing, though, that's very destructive about porn is the sexual novelty aspect of porn. Okay, so what novelty means, something new, right? So you lose control to your instincts when you're consuming stuff like porn, because think about Gary Wilson in the book Your Brain on Porn. He uses a analogy of a buffet. Okay, so when you go to a buffet, there's all these options available. And usually, if there was only one option available, you would not overeat. But since you have unlimited access to the buffet, all these different options, people will overconsume every single time. And it's because the novelty. They're like, oh yeah, sweet, they got cookies too, and they also got brownies. Oh, they also got snickerdoodles. Everybody wants to try a little bit of something, and then it just keeps going and going and going. And that's the same thing that happens instinctually with pornography. Especially sexual novelty was very important ancestrally for us to find different mates that had different characteristics we could pair with our own genetics. So yeah, it's hacking our biology, and it's crazy. So, and what's dangerous about this though is that it starts to escalate too. People, when you read the book, they talk about like people were straight. They're like, maybe they were straight, and then all of a sudden they started watching like transgender porn. They started watching like stuff that was really crazy, and it just keeps going to the next level because what they watched from the beginning is not as exciting anymore. And that's really scary, and it leads to a lot of people with like erectile dysfunction and many other sexual problems too as well. So, and the thing about that escalation of sexual novelty is that this really affects the way your brain works. And then so in the book, and then you can look on the internet, they have studies that show with brain scans that people that are extremely addicted to porn, it's affecting their decision-making process and decreasing the gray matter in their brain. It's also disrupting their dopamine patterns, and a lot of this is why it leads to other addicting habits that are instantly gratifying, like video games and social media, because it's just so fast and super gratifying. So that's why that's the piece of the puzzle that has to be acknowledged. And let's talk about like the destruction of porn even further. Here's our wake-up call. Like the socialization of the impact that porn has on the socialization of kids is really dangerous, because psychologists are observing and analyzing, and they're finding a lot of scary results about these cyber sex addictions. These kids, they can't socialize, and it's hard for them to pursue women. And this overexposure to unrealistic, extreme sexual encounters is affecting the way they try to court women or get to know girls in general. And they're too scared to really pursue it, because it's so much harder to go out on a date or like meet a girl and talk to her and, you know, pursue her to be your friend and get to know her and then take her home and whatever and have sex. But instead, people are like, these kids are like, I'm just going to go home and like look at my iPad, it's 4K, and that's how I'm going to spend my sexual energy today. You know, it's like, how are we going to be able to have these young men like cultivate healthy sexual relationships? It's going to be so difficult because it's way easier to just use the internet. So this is what is very, very scary about this, okay? So especially with the introduction of VR and the further integration of the metaverse and stuff like this is going to be something that we have to get a grip on fast. This is why we're in a crisis. And so young men, they're going to struggle dramatically with how to have an authentic, real relationship. So is that not terrifying? And this all has to do with dopamine. This is our greatest biological currency. Dopamine is the neurochemical in our brain that drives ambition and motivation to do anything. And for anything, let's talk about like the main things like eating, right? Having success, and then most importantly is sex, because that's the thing that keeps us surviving for the next generation. And it's hardwired into our brain in a different fashion. And so what these brain scans they observe in porn addicts is that they have extremely dysregulated patterns and low levels of dopamine in their brain. And so a big reason why is because you are feeding your brain an insanely strong dopamine response by watching this extremely crazy sexual porn stuff. And also these excessive orgasms, right, that people are doing, is like, it's completely draining their dopamine. And so when people become addicted to the destructive behaviors like this, that elicits such a strong dopamine response, they lose motivation to pursue healthy behaviors in their life. And so this war upon your dopaminergic system ruins everything. And that's the idea of what I was saying earlier, the gateway drug. And so depression, these low dopamine levels lead to depression, directly related to it. Psychiatric, neuroscientific research, they can tie that connection between porn addiction and depression. So that's really crazy. You know, this is what's happening. And so it's all just a puzzle of that. And this is what people can be leading to devastating life circumstances. This could be like suicidal. And I even read like a quote from someone that was extremely addicted. They said that without porn, they felt like they would kill themselves because that was the only thing they had left. That was the only thing they had left, but that was the only thing that was destroying their life at the same time. So how destructive. So if we're gonna quit today, we have to adopt a healthy mindset, and we have to start with boosting our dopamine with natural means. And so that's what we have to use exercise for. And yeah, the personal trainers over here talking about exercise, but we need it. If you're feeling you're lacking your motivation or energy, it's been demonstrated that physical activity, lifting weights especially, is connected to more optimal dopamine levels. And so meanwhile, when you don't exercise, when you have a lack of physical activity, it's exactly with lower dopamine levels, right? Okay, the other thing we gotta do is we gotta read books instead of scrolling our phone at night and scrolling social media. This is actually what is known as a huge trigger to watching porn, is scrolling your social media at night. We have to start reading books, okay? And if you're not reading books, this is your call to do it now, especially at night. And so this is gonna help you get sleepy anyway. A lot of people are like, I can't fall asleep. I don't know why, I'm staring at a screen all night. It's because you're staring at a screen all night. So start reading a book and lay down at night. And all of the lessons to change your life and achieve goals that are based upon purpose and fulfillment and happiness, they're found in books. And so there's some absolute classics out there. And if you are a young man who's looking for a book to help you mature, then you got to check out The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida. It's really awesome. I read it last month, and he really explains kind of this concept of using your masculine sexual energy in your favor rather than draining it every single night. And journaling, right? Without journaling or verbalizing your thoughts, you are absolutely clueless about what you even think or what you believe, because you're constantly just being barraged with other people's opinions and perspectives, especially on the internet, and the people around you in your life. Like, you don't even know what you even think anymore, because you're consuming so much all day long. Like, what do you even think? What do you even believe? So why don't you think about journaling? And so especially if you are struggling with porn or anything, because you can connect the dots, you can see what's going on in your head. And so journaling is so powerful. And for me, I've used that Jordan Peterson future authoring program, and it's been really instrumental in understanding like what do I want to do with my life and how I want to live every day. And it helps you understand like what's serving you positively in your life and what's serving you negatively, because sometimes people get it confused. They don't understand that things are so toxic for them, and they don't understand the things that are so amazing for them. They don't do enough of it. So find some writing prompts on the internet, or try a writing program like I mentioned. Jordan Peterson's is really great, and you're going to feel very clear-headed and super purposeful. Okay, lastly, meditation. This habit literally makes you unstoppable. And so every video you're probably gonna hear me talk about meditation, because it's so huge and people really underestimate how powerful it is. And I do. I underestimate how powerful it is every single day. And some days I miss out on it, and then when I do it finally, I'm like, wow. Damn, I needed that. It makes you just feel so much better, and it just makes you understand what's going on. That we're a speck of dust in the universe. Shows you how to live intentionally. It helps you reckon with your world emotionally and psychologically, and just get away from your ego. So that we just often forget that our ego is just so intrusive, and it derails our peace and our virtue. And so if you're looking to meditate and you haven't, you got to do it. And check out some just simple guided meditations out there on YouTube or Spotify. They're everywhere these days. And so get into it, and don't forget that every ounce of investment you put into your mental health is 100% worth it, undoubtedly. And I've realized recently for me that now is the time more than ever to double down on mental health. If like you're gonna double down on anything, it's always up here, because that's what our world is. We're always perceiving things all day long. And if we're living in hell, even though we have all the money and we have all the people around us, but we're living in hell mentally, it's not worth it. So why wait 5 or 10 years for you to get all your money correct, or wait for till you got all the girls around you and like the nice car and stuff to try? Why would you wait that long to try and rid yourself of like this toxic emotional and mental behaviors you probably are already feeling right now? And getting rid of those are going to help you reach success so much faster anyway. So now is always the time to work on meditation, and that's the #1 tool to achieve that. Okay, so that wraps up the video for porn addiction, how to get rid of it, how destructive it is, what's the context, why does it matter. Thanks for watching my channel, Ethan Etchart Fitness. Please subscribe, like the video. Check out my Facebook group, Electrify Your Life and Fitness. I help people coach them through addictive behaviors, and obviously as a fitness coach we get pretty muscular too, and we feel great, we feel sexy, and we focus on mental health as well. So give your boy a like and a follow. Check out my website. I have a newsletter. I write articles every single week, so give that a look. Follow me on Instagram at Ethan Etchart, and have a good one, everyone.